Dörte Höppner, Chief Executive of the European Private Equity and Venture Capital Association. Welcome to SuperInvestor 2014.
Thank you.
One of the key themes and topics here is regulation. What are you seeing in terms of the effects of more focus on private equity from regulators at the moment?
I think the industry is actually, yes, it's true they're getting more attention, but I think it's also, it has changed, the perception has changed. And I think that we are getting a lot more positive attention from policymakers because they slowly are starting to realize that our industry can actually be part of a solution of the problem, and that our industry can help to put Europe back on the growth track. And I think that is being much appreciated by more and more policymakers. So the tone, the rhetoric has changed, and we see that especially with the new Commission coming in, that they are not seeing us anymore as a problem that you need to keep small and regulate, but rather what can we do also to use the potential that the industry has to offer.
And how is the industry innovating in that way and making itself appear more transparent, if you like, to the regulators?
I think the industry has always been quite transparent, especially transparent towards their investors, and I think they have now also understood, and this is nothing recent, I think they have understood years ago that you also need to explain yourself much more to a wider audience. And so they are very much also using us as their industry body in Brussels to showcase, what kind of positive impact they have on the European economy, broken down to the micro level. So we are collecting case studies, for example, from our members, investment case studies, and we publish those case studies on our website. We are inviting policymakers to visit these portfolio companies, and we are bringing members to meetings, and so the industry is very keen to help us to make the case for the industry in Brussels, if you like.
You're taking away the them v us kind of feel to it, if you like.
Absolutely, and it is, it's I think what is fascinating to policymakers is what kind of role our industry plays in the real economy. Because in the past, I think private equity was being viewed like hedge funds, something in the financial sector, and now they understand more and more that we are actually very important on the ground, in the real economy, and this is what fascinates policymakers. So I'm not saying, they all love us, it's all great. I mean, it's still a way to go, but it has much improved over the last few years.
And what can the companies do to move forward now as well? So that's how it's the place it's got to now. What's the next bit of progress?
Well, then I think what is also important is that the industry is arranging itself with the amount of regulation that they are facing. And of course, it is onerous, it is, very expensive, and some of it is not appropriate at all, but nevertheless the industry is showing that they're getting on with it, and they're setting up all these compliance that is necessary to comply with the regulation. And I think that is also a very important sign, that you are agreeing to it and you're buying into it. And I think that is also, and then of course the next step is to improve things and to improve the regulatory environment. And what is on our agenda right now is the IEFMD third country passport, so the marketing passport for those fund managers that are not based in the EU. And then of course sooner or later we will have a revision of IEFMD, most likely around 2017. And this is also an excellent opportunity for us, for the industry, to get engaged again also, and and to try to improve also IEFMD with all the consequences that it has. So we are viewing things more, I think that has changed, we are viewing these things more as an opportunity for us rather than a challenge or a threat. We are trying to get engaged in the debate and to improve things.
Talking about opportunity, what is the atmosphere in Europe generally at the moment, and are people being affected by, say, geopolitical factors? There's talk of Brit exits from Europe and everything in Ukraine, for example. What's the atmosphere like in Europe at the moment in terms of reacting?
Absolutely, but on the other hand, there were always such challenges in the past, and I think we had, and I mean only a few years ago, everybody thought that the euro would break up, the eurozone would break up, and it didn't happen. And I think this industry shows its strength by adapting also to a changing environment and also to reacting to crisis situations. So of course it would be great if we would have a nice long phase of also geopolitical stability. investment stability. That's the most important thing for investors, right? But if we don't have that, the industry is also adapting to it. But of course, it would be, again, some things you can't influence, other things you can more influence. And so let's hope that the EU, that the core EU will, stay closely together and to form a strong alliance that can then meet the challenges, most of them coming from more outside the EU as well.
Somebody said to me earlier, and I don't know whether your opinion would be that it simplifies it too much, but you're dealing with companies, not countries always.
That, of course, is true, but nevertheless, of course, the investment climate is important. And if you're a European GP and if you're going fundraising in Asia, you will be asked, what is going on in Europe? How is the situation? So, of course, even though you're investing in micro opportunities and you're not investing into the GDP, nevertheless, your investors will nevertheless have a close look at the overall climate. And so I think you can't just ignore it. It has, of course, an impact on every investor. But true, in each country, and we see that in Europe, and I think that's also the beauty of the industry, that they're able to identify these investment opportunities on a micro level, finding companies that have a huge growth potential no matter how the GDP is evolving, how many structural reforms the country might.
They may even defy the GDP of the country.
Absolutely, exactly. And so in a way this makes the industry independent, but nevertheless you will get these questions as an investor, and it's a fair question, what's going on in Europe as such. Like the same, in Asia and the US, of course, it's not exclusively for us.
And what trends do you anticipate or see in the next 12 months, say? What do you think will be the hot topics there?
For the industry as such, I think it's constantly, evolving. I think, co-investments where I think we will see more and more LPs also thinking about going direct maybe. So that will be interesting to see, if LPs are turning to GPs also and how they will coordinate things with existing GPs. So I think it's also, there will be much more flexibility, I think, on all sides. And I think, right now, investment is, of course, investment opportunities are great. Valuations in some countries are pretty high. So it will be interesting also to see how the industry will deal with that. But I'm sure that, we all learned our lessons, I guess, from the past, last 5 years. And so I think there will be a higher degree to be more careful.
Careful but interesting times ahead, maybe.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. And I mean, there's a lot of debt available. We see that. So it's interesting to see, how that is evolving. So interesting time, definitely, and also still good opportunities. And also, I mean, ultimately, fundraising is going, I think, over quite well because institutional investors need to generate some returns. And so they need to look for asset classes to invest in that generate high returns, and since private equity has a proven track record here, I think that's why the interest of LPs will continue also definitely over the next years in this low yield environment to have a high interest in private equity.
Dörte, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.